The Dallas Cowboys offense hit another level in week 7. We'll tell you how they got there next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we are reviewing our all 22 notes from the Cowboys' 44-22 win over the Washington Commanders. We're going to talk about the defense. We're going to talk about some other notes that we have from that side of the ball. But let's start with the Cowboys offense, because I think for as many flaws as they had in this game and mental mistakes, this is the best I think I've seen this unit play in a while. How did that happen?
They were incredibly balanced. I mean, I just feel like they were capable of doing whatever they wanted. They were throwing the ball down the field. The only time it felt like they even were struggling even a little bit is when they were getting penalties that were kind of putting them way behind down in distance. I think specifically those 2 holding penalties on the outside by the wide receivers on those run plays. And then there was a period, and I think even Schottenheimer talked about it in the press conference after the game, where it just felt like they were taking too many shots down the field. Like it felt like they ran like too many consecutive long developing shots down the field and ended up getting contested catches instead of just continuing to take what they wanted in the middle of the field, which was having a lot of success and then running the football on a consistent level. But once they kind of went back to that in the latter part of the game, it really felt like Washington didn't have any answers for especially the passing attack, and you know, when they got into the red zone, having both CeeDee and Pickens back, like especially on the outside, like if you go back and watch the all 22, make sure you get an opportunity to watch the Ferguson's touchdown where he just runs a simple curl like in the middle of the end zone, and there's just no one there. Like the guy that's kind of covering him and trailing him, is like whatever 2 yards off of him. But outside of that, like all the gravity of these 2 guys on the outside has pulled the entire defense on the outside. And there's just this huge open. I mean, Dak could have just run the ball, honestly, and scored the touchdown if he wanted to. So I just think that it's not, I didn't feel like going back and watching the tape that it was like a whole lot more explosive or a lot different. I just think that the difference was it took less effort to achieve the kind of plays that they were getting these last few weeks, because there were so many more options than there were these last few weeks.
I'll tell you one thing. After watching CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens together, I never want to go back to an offense that doesn't have 2 awesome receivers, because I mean, whether you're watching the Cowboys or you're watching like the Philadelphia Minnesota game where both teams had legit receivers, whether it's Justin Jefferson and Addison or Brown and Smith, it's just a cheat code to make your offense so good. And it raises the floor so high, because one of these guys is always going to be open, and it creates so many opportunities for all of the other players like Jake Ferguson. I do want to mention George Pickens really quickly, because I think we need to talk about how good he is at drawing penalties. And this has now become something the Cowboys offense is utilizing a little bit. So on the year, Landon, he's drawn 116 defensive pass interference yards. Only one other receiver in the league has drawn more than 68 yards. So this is something that Pickens has done on all 4 of his defensive pass interferences that he's drawn. The Cowboys have gone on to score touchdowns on those drives. And he did it again this week. On the first drive of the game, he draws a 37-yard defensive pass interference call. The Cowboys get a rushing touchdown on the very next play. I mean, these 2 guys together, I don't want to say unstoppable, but it's pretty darn close.
Well, and I'll add in another element too, because I think I started this whole conversation by talking about a balanced attack, and I think we should bring some balance to this great conversation. And I think we had visions of Sugar Plums dancing in our head about CeeDee Lamb and Pickens and what could be. I think that's always been something that we've wondered. And then suddenly it would open things up for Ferguson in the middle. I think we've always thought that was possible. Yeah. It's exceeded those expectations. And I think part of the reason that it's exceeded those expectations is because you got so much more from Javonte Williams as a running back, and it opened things up in the running game in a way that you were just hoping to cobble together with 2 or 3 guys, right? But Javonte Williams has been such a boss at running back just by himself. He's now up to 390 yards rushing after contact. He's number 4 in the NFL. Like, I mean, and he just, I mean, now it's back-to-back weeks in which he's broken off a huge run to get down into the red zone so that the Cowboys could score right before half. And it's been a game-changing play. I mean, the fact that you've been able to not just have Javonte Williams as like, oh, he's just a guy who's a head of a committee. Oh, he's just a guy that you can, he's part of a group that does a really good job. Like the fact that he's been a singular back that you can go back there and trust to do anything has been such a boost to this offense that you didn't expect. The addition of Pickens and Williams to this offense has just supercharged this offense to a way that you just did not expect. And obviously more so Pickens than Williams. But I think the fact that you just didn't expect it from Williams is the difference between being a very, very good offense and being the best offense in the NFL.
And we thought because of the addition of Pickens and because of the offensive line, resources that they've used, that they were going to be able to prop up any running back or at least get really good running back production. But the difference is Javonte's actually adding value to the offense. And that's how they kind of gotten over top. Another thing I want to mention is they're getting good production from role players. And I think a good example is like Brevin Spanford. Now he's not playing a ton of snaps. I think it was only 15 or so snaps this week, but you notice him when he's on the field. He had a big block on the Jaden Blue run that got called back. He had a huge block on the goal line that sprung Javonte Williams for the touchdown. And it's players like that, whether it's Turpin or sometimes Tolbert in the receiving game. I know he had a penalty this week. Or Brevin Spanford. Those guys filling the roles that fill in the gaps. And that's how you have an elite offense like this.
Much the same way that Turpin got that screen pass out to him, there's plays that are designed for Turpin to get the ball in this offense. There are plays designed for Brevin Spanford to be the tip of the spear blocker in the run game. And you're right. He's not getting a ton of snaps, but he's being used in high leverage situations near the goal line, in key rundowns. And as the kind of key block in those situations, Brevin Spanford is an incredibly valuable piece to this team. And when he got injured during training camp, it was a real letdown because we were all excited to see what he could do. He's clearly shown in the early goings that he is one of the best blocking tight ends in football. I want to see him catching some passes a little bit, just because I think that will be his gateway to getting more opportunities to be on the field a little bit more.
But even then, it's like, how often are you going to use the second or third tight end? I know they use Schoonmaker a little bit, but you want him to be where, okay, if he's out there for 20 snaps, maybe he catches one pass for 13 yards in a play action. And that's how you expand his role. His role is always going to be limited because he's the number 2 tight end and because this is going to be a heavy 3 receiver offense, 4 receiver offense. But the fact that you can put him on the field and not lose anything, and in fact, you're actually gaining some value as a blocker, again, fills in the gaps with this offense. And that's how you become so multiple and so explosive.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, all these kind of pieces together combined with really good play calling and formation and design, that's how you get an offense that's, basically running run shot of basically over every team they've played so far.
All right, let's talk about the defense, because we've got some really positive defensive notes, but there are a couple players on this defense who are leaving a little bit to be desired. We'll get to that next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling to incredible controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Lane, I want to talk about the defense, because I thought for the most part, they played really well in this game. They were flying around on the field. They were making plays. They were blitzing more. We'll get into some of the man coverage, zone coverage stuff. But one of the things that we've kind of been watching the last few weeks is there are about 3 players on this defense who continue to mess things up and be the reason why they get beat, right? And we'll identify them. Now, it's not the same 3 guys every week, but it's, for the most part, it's Sam Williams, Kenneth Murray, and Donovan Wilson. Now, Sam Williams has been an issue as a run defender. His pass rushing stuff has been better that way. Still not able to close out the sacks. Kenneth Murray has been a disaster almost all the way around. He did make a couple more plays. And Donovan Wilson has been an issue in coverage. He does make some plays as a run defender. They actually blitzed him a couple times on Sunday, and he got a little too aggressive, and the quarterback stepped through and was able to make some plays. But it feels like it's those 3 guys that if the Cowboys could just take off the field, I think we would see some huge improvements from them on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would describe all 3 players as high variance players, right?
That's the nice way to say it.
Well, but I was going to say, I think I would describe these players as that way. But I think this year specifically, you just haven't seen the high-end play from all 3 of these guys. I think it's shown up in spurts. But I think, with Donovan Wilson, this is a relationship that we've been having with Donovan Wilson for a long time. There was a good 3 or 4 year period where he was just a high-end safety, and he felt like he was playing really well, specifically in the box. But before that, he struggled to become a starter because he played with really high highs and really low lows, and you wanted him on the field because back then the Cowboys struggled to create any kind of turnovers, and he was the only guy who was doing it. And frankly, we're almost kind of at that point now. And this just goes back to the point, is that he's a guy that has an interception. He's around the football a lot. He makes plays. He does some good things, especially in the run game, but he's such a liability in coverage nowadays that the low lows are extremely low, and you're just not getting the high turnovers that you were before. And I think with Murray, it's a lot the same thing, right? Where he's just, it's the same thing you've seen from him since college, right? Like he chases with his eyes. He doesn't follow the play through. If there's play action, he's biting on it. If there's misdirection, he's going the direction that you're trying to push him to. And it just doesn't feel like it's changed a lot. And I feel like there are times when you see him fire downhill and make tackles for a loss, and you're excited that you got him then. But then there's also times when he does that and he misses the tackle, and that's his gap that he's evacuated, and now that's a 30-yard run down the field. So, I mean, I honestly, like, it's a lot of the same with Sam Williams. He just never developed into the guy that had the high highs. It just felt like we saw it early on, but just this year specifically, there's been a lot of pressures, that have been given to his name, but it hasn't amounted to much. And it just feels like every time there's a huge play, you look at the tape, you look at the angle, and there's Sam Williams evacuating his gap. And there's everyone else is playing, normal kind of maintaining their gap, and he's out of his gap for some reason. And it's like, and there's Sam Williams. He got a great initial jump off the ball, but he doesn't know how to use his hands. He can't disengage from the blocker. And now the quarterback's throwing it 30 yards down the field because he's got all the time in the world. So it's just honestly, frustrating.
He got bailed out on a penalty on the punt where he jumped off sides. I mean, they very easily could have called that on him. I didn't think there was a ton there, but I think the problem with Sam Williams is yesterday, he was the only defensive end outside of Jadeveon Clowney who's over 250 pounds. So they kind of like to play him on early downs. And that means that you end up getting 30 snaps to Sam Williams, and the other guys are just better. But because they don't have, Mosher and Landon's banged up, they kind of have to throw him out there. And he's one of these guys, Landon, that if you need him to give 5 good snaps, 10 good snaps, like the way he was used as a rookie, where he would come in on third downs and just be explosive. That's his best. That's how you use him. But when he's playing 25, 30, 35 snaps a game, he just gets exposed, and you can't hide him very well.
Yeah, and the problem is that they've had to play him a ton, and as you said, because he's one of the only bigger defensive ends you've got, you penciled him in as a starter because you figured he was taking a step. But the problem is that it's like a concentration issue. It's a focus issue. It's a maintaining focus throughout the snap issue. It feels like, right? And I think if he has one goal, one purpose to get after the quarterback, I think he can do that on third down and long situations. But that's the problem. That's the problem, is that he's not contributing to getting into those situations, and the Cowboys aren't getting into a lot of those situations, which really decreases the value there for Sam Williams.
Now, the good news is, long term, all these guys are on the final year of their deal. And honestly, I would be shocked if any of the three were back in 2026. It just feels like they're going to move on from all these guys. And I think the defense, if you just put average NFL starters at those 3 spots, defensive end, middle linebacker, and actually really free safety. I don't know why Donovan Wilson's playing free safety as much, but safety. I think this defense would get significantly better. Not top 10, but much closer to average. The problem is, I kind of think you're just going to have to play with these guys for the next several weeks, because I don't know who's replacing Donovan Wilson. You're hoping Overshown can replace Kenneth Murray, and then at defensive end, it's the same issues that we just got done talking about.
Yeah, I think for Wilson, you're hoping it's Bell or Thomas playing better football than you saw from Wilson. But I think for Sam Williams, that's either going to need to be a trade, or Jadeveon Clowney is going to need to play the way that he played in this game at a higher snap count as well, which at 32 years old is probably too much to ask. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they fill that gap. But if the Cowboys do make a trade, I mean, obviously wouldn't be shocked if it was a defensive end, and I would have to think it had to be a bigger one at this point. So because just how many smaller ones you've got.
Is there anybody else on defense that you think is a big weak link? Because I didn't feel that way. I mean, there's some of the corners, you can get exposed the more they're out there, but it just seems like those 3 are kind of blinking lights and all the wrong reasons right now on defense.
I think, everybody deserves a little bit of blame spread around, but you're right. These are the 3 consistent, violators, it feels like, offenders, the defensive players. So that I think it's tough to kind of point out 3 specific guys, but you do feel like if you could swap out those plays, or at least reduce their snaps a little bit, you may have something with all the other changes that they made this week on defense.
All right, let's get to some more notes from that side of the ball, because we are going to be positive. Again, this unit played probably their best game of the season. We'll give you some more positive takeaways next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something on the line. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats like I do, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. I love that I can go in and look at the money line parlays, or I can go make a futures bet. You can start betting on which teams you think are going to make the playoffs, who's going to be the NFL MVP. Maybe it's our guy, Dak Prescott. It's all available on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com right now to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcast. All right, so let's empty the notebook. What do you got from the Cowboys defense here in week 7?
Well, let's first talk about the kind of elephant in the room here. Is that obviously there's been a lot of talk about the fact that they blitzed a lot more. They used a lot more man coverage, but let's quantify like what they did, right? It's not only that they played more man coverage, and it looks like it was close to, I mean, depending on who you're asking, it's close to a 50-50 split, right? Man zone. So it's not even just that. It's that they improved both their man and their zone coverage, right? And part of that has to be pointed to personnel, right? I really do think that you saw a really great game from Bridges. I thought Elam had his best game on the outside. And I think you and I talked about it. I think that was Bland's best game, whether it was because he was playing inside or because he's feeling healthier. I don't know what it was, but he obviously had his best game, not only as a cover guy, but also as a tackler, I would say as well.
He just played awesome. He was great.
He played great. But I think just to quantify it a little bit more, I've got defensive EPA numbers here for cover 1 versus cover 3. So for the first 6 games of the season, the Cowboys had a negative, this is defensive EPA, so positive is good here, okay? They cover 1, they had a negative 2.71 EPA, and cover 3, they were a negative 4.04 EPA per game. I mean, that showed on tape. They were terrible in both coverages. This week, they were 8.87 on cover 1 snaps, which, again, it's not even just that they were that much orders of magnitude better, but they were playing it at a rate 4 times that they normally were. And then they were better at cover 3 as well. They, like I said previously, they were -4 and they raised it up to 6.5. So it helped their zone coverage to play more man coverage. And I think, like I said, it's really hard to separate this increase in production from the fact that you've made some personnel changes. And that's not necessarily a knock on Diggs, but I think it's about the fact that if you play some young players and you give these guys some opportunities, I think they're going to show you something. And I think Elam, is one of these guys, but I think we have to point to the fact that this, rookie 7th round pick went out there and really played some pretty good football. And I understand it was against backups, but you play against who you put out there. So it was good stuff on the back end for the Cowboys.
The other thing is they were just a lot more aggressive. Now, they were sending a lot of 5-man rushes, and sometimes it was 5, I'm going to call it like 4.5, where a guy was spying, but basically at the line of scrimmage. So that way Jaden Daniels couldn't leak out of the pocket. But if they're going to be bad on defense, at least be bad and aggressive, right? Because you can force the issue, right? And what we were saying on our Friday preview show is with Washington having so many backup receivers in, you want to speed the game up and make Jaden Daniels have to throw to spots that maybe these receivers weren't ready for. And you saw that play out multiple times in this game. And that makes it where Kyer Elam doesn't have to cover as long. Bland can be a little bit more aggressive. I know this is not Matt Eberflus's forte is to blitz, but I think with the current defense he has, that's just going to be their best path forward to getting stops. Go be aggressive and try to force the issue that way.
And kudos to you, because that was your defensive call. And I thought that you wanted to play more zone coverage because you wanted to keep Jaden Daniels in the pocket. But the truth of the matter is that they did a really good job of keeping Jaden Daniels in the pocket when they were playing man. So I do think that they have something. And I think when you play Bo Nix this week, I think it may be a very kind of similar situation where you might have an opportunity to kind of play them in a very similar way and have success. Now, I don't think that you're going to be able to get away with this game plan consistently week to week and have success, but at least it showed you something that does work in this defense. And it maybe at least gave you a path forward on way to kind of mix it up and at least get off the field on key drives when you need to by mixing in man and blitzing.
I think it also helps that someone like Jadeveon Clowney is starting to play better.
Yes.
And
Thank
we should have
goodness.
been surprised. It takes these guys a couple of weeks to get into football shape. He's getting there. Now, I think he's always going to be a little bit limited on the number of snaps he can play at this
Yeah.
stage of his career. He played 26 snaps, and honestly, that's probably the right number. But if you're getting 26 snaps from Clowney, you're getting 30 snaps from Fowler. I thought Donovan Ezeraku continued to put
Yes.
another good game on tape. And you're kind of just, and this is what we said earlier in the week, start shortening your rotation with edge rushers, and you might get some better play. I think we saw that play out here on Sunday.
They need one more big body defensive end, whether that's Nealon coming off of an injury and playing better football, whether you need to go out and make a trade, but you need one more big body defensive end. And then I feel like at least your defensive end rotation is getting towards solid, right?
Well,
it's getting
did you
towards
see?
addressable.
Did you see the play on the goal line? I think it was one of the first goal line plays. They put Kenny Clark out ISO'd with Josh Connolly, the rookie right tackle, and he drove him right back into Jaden Daniels' lap, and Jaden Daniels had to escape out of the pocket. That's where they were actually playing. I think it was Clowney was lined up as a defensive tackle, and it was Clark on the outside, and then they were playing Solomon Thomas as the other edge. You might be doing some more weird stuff like that just to try to get those guys on the field.
Listen, Solomon Thomas was a defensive end when he came into the league, and I still think he can do it in situations, right? So
He played really well. Solomon Thomas had a good game.
Well, he has been a really good pickup, like a solid pickup at defensive tackle, like way more than I thought so. So, kudos to him. And yeah, you're right. Especially there were a couple of snaps where he made the play for the defense, even if he didn't necessarily make the tackle.
He's somebody that I would really be happy if the Cowboys could bring back in 2026 because he's the best backup defensive tackle they've had on this roster in years. And it's just nice to be able to have a couple of guys that you can throw out there. We'll see if Perion Winfrey ever comes back from his back injury because I do think he's somebody that could add some value. But overall, pretty good day for the Dallas Cowboys defense. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. He is Landon McCool. I'm Marcus Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.